It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce someone who has not spoken to Cpac before, but who I think you're going to enjoy very much hearing from. You know, in the history of America, there are a few families that have contributed a lot, and one of the families is the family of Dick Cheney. We all know what Dick Cheney did in Congress as Secretary of Defense and as Vice President of the United States, and as a spokesman even since then. We all know what his wife has done over the years in administrations and out and at the American Enterprise Institute. But we forget sometimes that these folks had kids, and they're not just kids. And one of the Cheney kids, Liz, is really one of the most accomplished foreign policy and defense experts in the country today. She served in the State Department as assistant on Middle East policy, principal deputy assistant for Near Eastern affairs. She's a lawyer, an accomplished lawyer, went to the University of Chicago, and I'm always partial to Midwesterners, as many of you know. And since then, she has founded, since the administration left and since these new folks came in, she's the co-founder of Keep America Safe. And you've seen her, I think, on Fox News and other places. She's speaking around the country. And she's carrying on a tradition in a family that has contributed much to American politics, to policy, and to America's greatness. So I'm not going to take up much of your time. But I think it's time, as we move to new generations of leadership, getting rid of folks like me, for example, that we hear from another generation of Cheneys, a generation from a family that really has a lot to say, a lot to add, and who, like her parents, is one of us. Liz?
It is such an honor to be here. It's an honor to be introduced by Dave Keene, who has done so much for this country and for our movement. So thank you, David, very much for everything you do. And thank you to all of you. What a fabulous time to be a conservative. Now, it has always, in my family, been a good time to be a conservative. But there have been some critics, you might have noticed. And I had a good lesson back during the 2004 campaign in how to deal with criticism and critics from my daughter, Kate. Kate was then 10 years old, and she had a friend spend the night. The next morning, we were in the kitchen. I was making breakfast, and Kate and her friend were on the floor of the kitchen working on an art project. Now, the TV was turned on, and pretty soon, Howard Dean, who was then running for president, showed up on the TV screen. Now, it didn't take long before Howard Dean said some pretty nasty things about my dad. And I thought to myself, should I turn it off? What should I do here? And I decided, no, I'm just going to, act cool and hope the girls aren't listening. Well, Kate's friend immediately paid attention, and she said, Kate, that guy is really saying nasty things about your grandpa. And my sweet, darling little girl looked up from her art project, looked at the TV, saw that it was Howard Dean, and said, you know what? Don't worry about it. That guy's psycho. Now, you all know that criticism of conservatism and predictions of our demise reached a new crescendo after the last election. All across the mainstream media, you could see so-called experts giving their analysis, saying conservatism was dead and Barack Obama's plans to radically rechange this nation were a done deal. Well, I think a few weeks ago, the people of Massachusetts told those experts what they could do with their analysis. And you know, the White House was spooked by that election. You could tell because the day after the results came in, you saw the president's men all over the airwaves, David Axelrod and Robert Gibbs and Rahm Emanuel, saying, hey, we're populists, you know? We're returning to our populist roots. Barack Obama's a populist. Now, you have to admire that ambition because everybody in this room remembers that President Obama is the president who said small-town Americans are bitter, and that's why they cling to guns and to God. But now, suddenly, the White House tells us he's a man of the people. Good luck with that one. In the year that President Obama's been in office, we've learned a lot, haven't we? We've learned he's not going to govern from the center. We've learned he doesn't believe in American exceptionalism, and he's going to travel the world apologizing for this great nation. We've learned he's going to raise everybody's taxes. He's going to try to expand the size of the federal government until it permeates every aspect of our lives and every corner of our land. He's going to try to turn our health care system over to the federal government. And we've learned that he wants to give terrorists constitutional rights, including the right to remain silent. We've learned he wants to move dangerous terrorists from Guantanamo onto the American homeland while he investigates and possibly prosecutes the CIA officers who interrogated them. That is not change we can believe in. It's not change the American people voted for, and it is time for all of us to stand up and take this country back. Now, nowhere have this president's policies caused greater concern than in the area of national security. A little over a year ago, as you all know, he said he was going to close the facility at Guantanamo Bay where we detain hardcore al-Qaeda terrorists. He had no plan for what to do with the terrorists, and he had no national security reason for closing the facility. So it's not a surprise that he's failed to meet his objective. But what he has done over the course of the last year, week by week, continuously, is release and transfer hardened terrorists out of Guantanamo Bay. Now, if you pay attention, you'll see that the White House likes to make these announcements late at night on news days where there are other things going on, hoping we won't notice. But the problem is that the terrorists currently at Guantanamo are such bad guys that most of their own home countries don't want them back. Now, President Obama, therefore, in order to keep his campaign promise, has to transfer these terrorists, the worst of the worst, into America. As we meet here today, the Obama administration is trying to appropriate over $200 million to buy the facility at Thompson, Illinois, the correctional facility to hold the terrorists there. Now, this is on top of the money the U.S. taxpayer has already spent on Guantanamo Bay. This isn't rocket science. My 9-year-old daughter, Grace, who is a genius, if I may say so myself, asked me about this recently. She said, Mom, is President Obama really trying to bring terrorists into the United States? And I told her, yes, Grace, sadly, that's exactly what he's doing. Without missing a beat, she cut right to the core of the issue, and she said, and I quote, man, use your brain, dude, that's totally stupid. But it's not only stupid, it's dangerous also. And if President Obama and Attorney General Holder don't get it, then it is time for Congress to act. And we need all of you here today to help us in this effort. Please go to my new website, keepamericasafe.com. Join us. We've got a new petition up that tells President Obama terrorists belong in Guantanamo, not in the American heartland.